This is the Rush Discuss, where the discuss is Rush. All right, welcome everybody to the first battle episode back of the Rush Discuss.
It's been a long time.
It has.
I gotta get back in the groove of these battles.
It's just been a crazy, I don't even know, 2.5, 3 months? Maybe not that long.
2 months.
Yeah.
Felt like 5 months.
Felt like an eternity. Yeah, just with everything going crazy. But good news, I did get a job, so that's
Yay.
that's one thing to be at ease about for us now, to just do all the host of other things that we've got to do.
Lots of things.
But we still really want to do this project because it's been super fun to have it start to expand out from being just us.
It's been great having the guests. It's been so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've actually brought back Vicki and Dennis to help us with this pairing. And so we'll go in a little bit, we'll go to our conversation with them about these songs. But what are these songs? As the title says, we're talking about Limbo from Test for Echo and Hope from Snakes and Arrows. Two very different songs.
It's an interesting pairing. I was not surprised that you paired them that way, but it was oh.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah, I figured because, I feel like both of these are kind of, I don't know, lower tier instrumentals in people's minds.
Okay. In other people's minds.
Yeah, just if you're thinking of the instrumentals, you're always going to think La Vida Strangiato, YYZ.
Which is funny because I don't.
Yeah.
I think of Main Monkey Business and stuff.
But yeah, or Leave That Thing Alone.
I mean, yeah, that is true. Most of the world's going to go towards those. Obviously, YYZ was on, that one was on the radio, right?
Yeah, that one was on Guitar Hero.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. But anyways, it is cool to start out the bracket with these ones.
Yeah, and then the reason why I thought that they went so well together is because there is definitely more of a focus on Alex in these songs. As far as the quirky stuff that he's doing.
Yeah, and talking about the guitar this week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so that's why having guitarists talk about these ones just went super well. So what are these? Well, Limbo is a full band instrumental, and then Hope is just a guitar solo.
Which is the only one of all of the discography, correct?
Yeah, this is the only time that Alex just had a guitar solo on an album.
Yeah.
And, of course, he being Alex is no just typical guitar solo. It's a 12-string guitar tuned to, what was it, D-A-D, A-A-D?
Yeah, the modal toning.
Yeah, and so for
toning? Sorry, the modal tuning.
And so for those of you who don't know what that is or what guitar tunings are, a normal guitar is tuned to E, A, D, G, B, E, and these are just the strings and the notes that they're tuned to. And so D, A, D, A, A, D, obviously all of those strings are only two notes.
Makes it sound cool.
And so that means when you strum it, you just have an open, what is that, fifth? D to A?
Yes.
And so you just have this open sound where you can just strum all the open strings and it is already playing something that sounds good.
It's a fifth.
Whereas if you... I feel you. It's been a long day with some screamy kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you strum an open guitar normally, unless you're into dissonance and jazz, it's not going to sound super interesting or great. But when you tune it to just those two notes, it sounds pretty good by itself open. And then he's able to do a lot of this cool, just, barring the strings, and sliding them up and, you know, making it still sound cool. And then, it's a completely different way of playing. You have to think of how the notes are set up in a different way. I would never be able to compose something for guitar or just, play it effortlessly like Alex does without a lot of work. And so I think it's really cool that he was able to do that with that one.
Yeah.
But before we dive into any more with these songs, I got off on that side tangent just because I love that tuning and I love the sound of that guitar. We're gonna start with Limbo. I'll give you a little taste of that. But first, you do have to know, I think this is one of their goofiest instrumentals.
Yeah, when I was listening to it earlier, again, I just asked Adam, I was like, so, like, why the, like, Halloween thing again? He's like, they're just being goofy, I think. I mean, maybe there was more of a reason than that, but it sure is interesting.
And you'll notice from the start, you'll hear the chains and the walking. You're like, that sounds familiar. Yes, it is the Monster Mash.
All of the, besides Getty's vocals, all the extra, like, I don't want clips of all the voices that you hear, they're from Monster Mash.
Yeah, they're sampling. They're sampling from the Monster
That's
Mash,
the
which
word
is,
I'm looking for.
Of course, the first time I heard it, I was like, "What in the world?"
And I just feel like in the context of the album too, it's like random.
Yeah, it's
like,
the second to last song.
What's happening now?
And the rest of the album is very, not super serious in nature, but it's definitely
some of
like,
it is. Think about, like, half the world and
yeah. But I mean, just like musically, it's
okay.
like it's not like it's a super dark album.
I see. Yeah,
but it's the lyrics, as always, are very deep and
yeah. I see what you're saying now.
And so then you get Rush's weirdness on display. And I think that when I first heard it, when I first listened to Test for Echo, that was before I really knew how goofy the guys were outside of their music. And so it's like, if you think of them as just being these serious players and that's all that they do, they just make great music, and then you come across this sort of stuff, it can turn you off a little bit. And I know that there are a lot of people that will have gone to a concert. R30 is a good example. He was, that's when they had, I believe that's when it was, Alex Lifeson he had a rant every night. They would play La Villa Strangiato. That or there was one song, It All Runs Together. It's been so long since that concert, but all I remember is, and you guys can correct me in the comments angrily if you want to, but they're playing a song, and then there's just like a break where they're still doing backing stuff, but they just let Alex have his solo, and his solo consisting of him rambling on about whatever is going through his brain. And so the concert that I went to, he was talking about we're the pirates of C Rinks, and then talking about how they're wearing eye patches, and not that they needed them, but they had them.
So there's some tangents happening in this podcast today.
All that to say, is stuff like that turn people off. They're like, why are they doing this? They're such serious musicians. And then it's like, no. When you really see who they are, it's like, of course they would have a song like this. No. Of course one of their instrumentals would sample Monster Mash because they thought it was funny.
Well, I mean, okay, this might be another tangent, but all I can think about in this instance is Roll the Bones. Yeah. The track. I mean, I guess the album, but the track. But anyway, let's play the intro of Limbo and get started.
All right, here we go. Yeah, so I'll let it play a little long because when it gets into that second part, um, that to me is one of my favorite parts in that whole track. It's just those super cool, um, just harmonics and just like the very percussive nature, um, and just like that really opposite feel to the start of it, which is the very crunchy test for echo sound.
That was a really cool bass intro. I haven't listened to it on proper headphones in a while, so I could like actually hear all the intricacy of that intro and the bass, and then
Yeah.
everyone combining together, and then the harmonics kick in and the guitar. I'm like, that was so interesting. You miss all of that when you just listen to it, like for instance earlier on my phone speakers. And I'm like, oh yeah, this track is cool, but then you listen to it properly and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening texturally.
Yeah, texturally, that's the right word.
So, because we got all the talking done before, I suppose we'll just hop right into Hope.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it's a new bracket, the new year. We're trying things out differently. We're having guests. This is not the new Rush Discuss, but we're all figuring it out on the way. So. All right, intro to Hope is outrageously different.
Yes. Oh man.
The first thing I always think of when I hear this song, besides the fact that it sounds incredible, is like open road, thinking about life on a drive. Like it feels like this song is what I would choose if I was going to go on a drive.
Yeah, yeah.
And like think about life.
Yeah, for me it always makes
It's too short. Sorry.
It is very short. It's only what, 2 minutes?
Yeah. It's like one of the shortest Rush songs
Yeah.
of all of Rush.
And oh gosh, it just, as soon as it starts, it just instantly puts me at peace and
It gives you hope.
it's super relaxing. And man, it's just such a great thing. I actually tried to learn it once. I say tried because I knew where to put my fingers. I knew sort of how to do it, but there's just so much Alex in this performance.
I know. It's like you're hearing him talk, but it's him playing.
Yeah.
That was not eloquently said, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there's just so much good communication going on musically. And it's just, I think it really illustrates what makes Alex so special as a musician is just that improvisational aspect that he brought to the band.
Well, and like so I found the entry on Wikipedia, and I'm going to trust it because why would Rush fans make up stuff? Because we all love the band so much. But anyway, so on the Wikipedia entry for this song, it said that Alex did it in 2 takes, but that the second take was, quote, just for the heck of it. So really it was 1 take, right? But like you can hear that the freeness, the not like improvisation. It's not like improvisational, but like you just can tell it's just him feeling and doing it and what he wants to do. I don't know, nothing felt forced.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I have to do another take. It felt like organic. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, I feel like it's very organic. Like whenever I listen to it, it brings me to the same headspace that I'll get into if I'm just messing around on the piano and I just, find something cool and I expound on that and I'm just in the moment and nothing else exists, and I'm just getting lost in whatever I'm doing, and I'm not analyzing it. I'm not thinking about, oh, is this, is this proper voice leading? Is this like anything like compositionally groundbreaking? Or I'm just thinking about nothing. It's my brain is very active. I'm always thinking about stuff. I can't ever really just like turn it off. And so
Go on.
so when I get into that headspace, that's like the only time that I allow myself to not think about anything.
Well, it's like today when we watched the Pixar movie Soul with our
Yeah.
2 boys who are 4 and almost 2. Like the zone
Mhm.
where they are just lost in what they're doing in a good way, not the lost souls, but like they are so involved and entranced in what they're doing. And I feel like this song kind of like matches that same idea and vibe of just being in the zone and just letting something be created.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's always a relaxing event for me when I listen to this.
It is so vastly different from Limbo because Limbo has so many interesting and quirky moments that make you want to keep listening because you'll catch more things each time. Also, like the samples that are added in always throw me off because I always think they're like somebody talking in the other room, and or like my phone has like when I was listening to it earlier on my phone, I was scrolling Instagram because I was just listening to it on repeat. And I thought that maybe like my sound turned on Instagram for a second of like a video, and I was like, no, it's part of the track. It's just like makes you it catches you off guard, and it's just funny and it makes you laugh. It's almost like Scared So, like a rock version of a Scared So. Like it's just so, it's like technically really cool, like as far as like the playing of it, like the technical aspect of the playing, but then it's also goofy.
Yeah.
And funny is supposed to make you laugh because Scared So means joke.
Yeah.
For people that aren't don't like know musical terms. But that's what I think would be like a version of a rock Scared So.
Definitely. And yeah, after having our conversation with Dennis and Vicki about these songs, like listening to them again after that, it just brought even more cool stuff. And so we want to go ahead and play that for you.
They brought up stuff that neither of us have even touched on. Like everyone has so many different experiences with these songs and different things that stick out. It's so cool. So let's hear their perspectives now.
All right, welcome back, guys. Glad to have you back on the show. Now we're going to break down some of Alex's playing, and we won't be mean to you guys, and you guys won't have to pick which one of these is staying and which one's going.
That's our job.
Thank you.
But we want to go ahead and start with Limbo and Hope, two very, very different songs in Rush's catalog. But just some background. So Limbo is from Test for Echo, and Hope is actually just a guitar solo on Snakes and Arrows. So Dennis, if you want to start us off and just kind of give, opinions about both of these tracks and maybe some cool things that Alex is doing in both of these songs.
Yeah, honestly, initially when I first heard really both of these songs, like Limbo, coming after Where's My Thing from Roll the Bones, and then Leave That Thing Alone from Counterparts, it was, here's another instrumental, and I didn't feel like it was as good as those other two. But if you listen to it, Alex is using, he's using natural harmonics in parts of the song, and it's kind of in a different way than he would in, say, the intro to Red Barchetta was really obvious. So it's a little different there. He uses a lot of open string chords throughout the kind of heavier parts, which it gives it kind of it's more of sort of a jazzier sound because of the amp distortion that he's using. And it's kind of like a dissonant kind of jazz sound, which I didn't notice at first, but now looking back at it, there's really a lot of cool, interesting things in that one. And then as far as Hope, that was the same kind of thing. I thought, okay, it's just a guitar kind of solo piece, whatever. But listen to it again, and it's like, okay, this reminds me of something I've heard before. On Led Zeppelin 1, Black Mountain Side. It sounds like that to me. So I went and looked at that, and then Alex is using a weird tuning, which is not the same as what Jimmy Page does on Black Mountain Side, but it's very similar. And the tuning that Alex uses, I don't even know what it's called, but everything's tuned to either a D or an A. And he's using a 12-string guitar. So you've got a lot of ringing kind of octave notes, drones in there, which makes it sound really cool. So those are the things that I kind of picked up from those two songs.
Awesome. Vicki?
Yeah, I love the things that Dennis brought up that I hadn't thought about, some of that sort of dissonance and those jazzy chords.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, Limbo, the things that I wrote down about it were, it's a very textural song. It doesn't have anything that's really sort of leaping out like a really distinctive riff or a distinctive solo. It's more creating a texture. And then the other thing I wrote down is that it has this sort of creepy Halloween vibe, which I really like. And there's no one better than Alex to create sort of a mood. And I think that's what he does with some of these instrumentals, that it's not as much sort of in your face as say La Villa Strangiato, but it's just kind of creating a feeling or a mood. And in that case, you can kind of almost picture like someone in the laboratory and you hear those sounds in the background in the beginning, and you can really, so he's really good at creating those sort of soundscapes and putting your mind in that place and in that mood. And I think the same with Hope. So when I think about Hope, I think about what it was like to see it live. Because the entire stadium filled with, 30,000 people suddenly became very, very quiet. And right before that, they'd been screaming about whatever song he'd been playing, that they'd been playing just prior to Hope. But as soon as Alex kind of sat down and started the song, the entire stadium arena went quiet. And it was almost like somebody lit candles. And there was this kind of vibe of just everybody slowed down, and the piece is hopeful. I mean, it really is. And this is, again, sort of similar to Limbo. He's creating a landscape with the sound just of the guitar. So I think Dennis has a great point that these songs might not be as sort of obvious, like with the catchy riffs like YYZ, but if you really kind of sit and listen to them, you get a lot out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it points to what Alex does so well, is being a textural player and setting a mood. Because like if you listen to his solo stuff where it's just him, and that's really what he enjoys doing, is just looking for sounds more than riffs. It's like he wants to pull in, just almost like he's pulling in experiences, and like you're getting kind of a glimpse into his creative mind of, I'm experiencing music and here's my experience with music. And I think it's really cool when he does that in these sorts of settings.
Well said.
Yeah, and so you bring up, Dennis, about Limbo, some of the same stuff that I noticed in listening, just those harmonics that, on a passive listen, I never really cared or paid attention to that. But when I really stopped and listened, just to hear all those cool little things that come out that show how skilled of a player he is, because it's something that's not super flashy, but it does take a lot of precision to pull those off.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to define harmonics for listeners who may not know what that is? Yeah, so a harmonic is when you basically put your finger over the string of a guitar in certain areas. You can't do it on every fret or every string, but certain strings and certain frets, if you place your finger kind of right in between the frets, just lightly, and you pick, it has this sound that sort of rings out. So the beginning of Red Barchetta was the example that Dennis gave earlier. So those are harmonics.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Alex uses those all over the
A
place.
lot, yeah. Beautifully.
The other thing about Limbo is kind of the main melody, or sort of the main theme is it's Geddy's voice.
Yeah.
But Alex is playing behind it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the two, which I don't think you can find anywhere else really in the Rush catalog, that kind of, because Geddy's not singing any words. It's just kind of the sound of his voice with Alex playing a lead behind it, which it sounds really cool.
It does. Yeah. That's a great, I hadn't made that connection that there's nothing else in the catalog that has that format.
Yeah,
wow.
I think the closest they got was 2112 in the overture.
Yeah.
But it's just a brief moment, and it's not the same. It's really not the same kind of vibe that they do. It's almost just like an accent. But I love that you point out that it was a much more deliberate compositional choice to have these two things going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And it kind of contributes to the Halloween sort of spooky theme that you were talking about, Vicki.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again, Dennis and Vicki.
It was awesome having them. It's so fun having guests. Seriously, guys, if you guys want to talk about Rush with us, let us know. It's so fun to just geek out and, talk more about the musician side of it, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's definitely so fun to get different perspectives than ours with people who have specialized in an instrument. Because I kind of have a basic working knowledge of various instruments, but I haven't put in the hours and hours and hours of practice to really get proficient at the guitar, and so to be able to have two people who who have done this for a long time, it's great to be able to pick their brains.
Yeah, get their perspectives. And they talked about some of the similar things of like the harmonics and the tuning for Hope. And also, I like that Vicki touched on the texture of Limbo. There is so much texture to this song. It's a texture song.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think both of them, because I didn't realize until we were talking to them that and it always happens like this. I'll pair songs and think, oh, this will be a cool pairing because such and such, or oh, I have to kind of pair these because there's no other option with the other things that I've paired. But then as we dig into them, similarities come out that show that, oh, this actually was a really good pairing. And I think both of these, the music of it really encapsulates the title of it. So like Hope sounds extremely hopeful. Like if you wanted hope as a musical idea, that would be
it seriously is the embodiment of hope.
And then Limbo, you just feel like you're in limbo the whole time.
Yeah, seriously, it's like, where are we? We don't know.
Yeah,
we're in limbo. So it's so appropriate. Yeah, it makes the song mean even more. That it's just weird.
Yeah.
It's and I lean towards one more than the other in this conversation. However, that does not mean the other one isn't fighting for that spot, because it is so cool.
Yeah. Man, I think I know which one you're leaning towards, and I think it's the same one as mine, but...
Well, I already know which one yours is. I can just tell by the way you're looking at the wall right now.
I'm just trying to figure out. This always happens though, because I get deeper into them, and I just appreciate them both so much.
And that was like one of the toughest parts of the least popular bracket, the previous bracket, was diving deeper. And it made, because we went into so many pairings with, I know exactly what I'm choosing, and then we would dig deep and we're like, oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, because so when I first made this pairing, I'm like, Hope is definitely going to be the one that comes out of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I just love the sound of Limbo and Test for Echo,
Mm-hmm.
and love all the cool textures that are brought in. And like, there's so much more to unpack with Limbo, and there's so much more
That's
to
true.
appreciate
There's a
from
lot
the
to
whole
unpack.
band. And so then, as I thought about it more, I'm like, well, there's no way that Hope is going to win now that I've like
Mhm.
dug into more of it, and then I listened to Hope, and I'm like,
Right. Well, the question I always go back to is which one would I be so devastated to never listen to
Mhm.
again? And I'm just going to tell you my choice. It has to be Hope
Yeah.
because of that reason.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, Limbo is absolutely intricate and so interesting and full of really cool musical moments.
Mhm.
And it does make me giggle. But if I could never listen to Hope again, I would just be really sad.
Yeah. I mean, I've always appreciated Limbo. It hasn't been one that I'm like, oh, I don't want to listen to this, or it like I've genuinely gotten excited to listen to Limbo, and there's so much about it that I just absolutely love, and it's just such a fun time. And even more than just being fun, it is a brilliant showcase of everything that they can do.
Well, a lot of technical skill went into that song. It definitely is not a throwaway song at all. It's not an afterthought at
Yeah.
all.
But neither is Hope.
Yeah.
For as much as it might seem like, oh, it's just a guy and his guitar playing, it's like, well,
It's
when you really listen to it and listen to how articulate Alex is with his instrument, and hearing just the subtle nuances that he pulls out, and the emotion of it, just the way that he shapes his phrases, the way that
Mhm.
even though he's playing the same thing again, like he plays through one time and then there's like a little middle bit and then he plays again,
Mhm.
like there's a definite repeat, it's still not exactly the same. And it's and when I tried to play it, well, first of all, funny story, I don't know if you knew this, but I saw my crappy old starter acoustic guitar.
the black one where the action's really high and it hurts your hands.
Yeah, it was the absolute worst instrument to start learning the guitar
I
on,
hate
but that was how much I wanted to try to do it, that I was willing to sacrifice my hands for the sake of learning how to play Fly By Night. But then later, which completely echo Vicky's sentiment of, I don't know why we think that starting on acoustic guitar is a great idea when you're learning that instrument.
No.
But anyway,
I
so
donated my acoustic guitar to my friend who is a music teacher, and she's like, "Can I give this to one of my kids?" I'm like, "Yes, please take it." No, just kidding.
but I was super excited to learn Hope, and I immediately, with the old strings that were on this guitar, because I don't think I had changed them but once, from the time that I got it. So I was 14 when I got the guitar, and I don't think I changed strings on them until I maybe changed strings a year and a half later, and then those strings stayed on until this instance here when I was 18. Because I went to tune these strings to this tuning, but you need to get a different gauge for a couple of those strings because they're not designed to go that tight.
Oh no! Did you break the? Oh man! Ouch!
Very surprising to me. Man, but
I actually never heard that story.
yeah. And this was when I was going to EFY, and like I was like double checking to make sure, and this was like a church youth
camp.
week,
Yeah.
youth camp thing. And once you get dropped off, you can't leave the premises because obviously they don't want kids just running free. You just, once your guardian leaves, then they're in charge of you. And right as I'm about to check in, I do this.
You're about to.
And so then my dad has to drive me to a local Guitar Center to get new strings. And I tell the Guitar Center employee what happened, and he just looks at me like, "You're gonna need these strings."
At
to
least
be able
he
to
knew what to give
you. But yeah, and so then when I actually was trying to play this song, that's when I gained a new appreciation for Alex, because it's like I could hit the strings, hit the notes, but it just sounded like a jumbled mess.
Well, and then what I think about when I listen to it is this song came out in 2007. It was released in 2007. And so how many years of experience and practice are we hearing in this performance that's impeccable?
Seriously.
It's so it makes me appreciate it even more.
Yeah, and
for that in that aspect.
Yeah, and actually, there was a live version that he played for, what was the album called? Tibet. I believe.
Yeah,
forgot about it up until you brought it up right before we started recording, but it.
It's the compilation of
Tibet.
songs for Tibet.
Yeah, and so a live version of Hope that appeared on that album was nominated for a Grammy.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, which, I think that's a weird, of all the instrumentals that were on that album, I think that was a strange one to pick of Rush's, that it's not on Snakes and Arrows, but it's on a compilation.
Yeah.
But anyway, but just the fact that it was nominated is still pretty cool.
For a Rush song is a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, okay, all that said, what are you choosing?
I think I have to go with Hope.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful, beautiful guitar solo. And I think, and that's what makes it really special to me, is that it's a time where Alex just gets to speak.
Yeah.
Because obviously all the lyrics you get to hear Neil speak, and then Geddy is the voice of those lyrics. And sometimes it feels like Alex is just kind of the goofy guy off in the corner that just is just forgotten about because it's the drummer of Rush, it's the bassist and singer of Rush, and the guitarist.
I mean, not everyone thinks that,
but I mean, like, general public.
Oh yeah,
like, it's just kind of I don't think Alex ever gets all the respect that he deserves.
Definitely deserves. Well, okay then. The choice for our very first pairing in the instrumental brackets is Hope.
Yeah.
Definitely interested to hear what you guys think for this one. This is a very interesting pairing.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know on any of our platforms, Instagram, Twitter, email, YouTube, if you join us on there, because we do post all of these on YouTube in video format as well. So yeah, that was fun and feels good to get back into this after a long hiatus.
Yeah, and especially since we've been doing a lot more interviews, it's definitely a different feel when you're having to host an interview. And so I was actually a little bit worried with us coming back together doing this. Like, is it gonna feel like a slog? Is it like, are we gonna just?
No.
But no.
No, it's all good. It's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Until next week, we announce the next pairing.
Yeah. So the next pairing, because we've got bassists coming on the show. We just had our interview with them. And so that'll be live on Tuesday. And then the next Friday will be our battle episode again, and we will be battling out Where's My Thing and oh gosh, I always forget. Malignant Narcissism. Yep. So looking forward to that discussion.
Yeah.
For sure. Thanks for joining us again on the Rush Discussion.